Hello and welcome to another very special predictions episode from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm joined as always by Craig Savage, and today we look ahead to both of this weekend's EFL Trophy Finals. So firstly, tomorrow at 3 p.m. is the delayed 2020 final between Portsmouth and Salford City, and that's followed on Sunday at the same time by the 2021 final between Sunderland and Tranmere Rovers. So we're going to look ahead to both of these finals at Wembley, which unfortunately are still being played behind closed doors at the moment, and tell you what we think the outcomes will be and why. So Craig, let's start by looking ahead to Saturday's long-awaited final. We'll start with Portsmouth rather than Salford City, for whom this is a pretty bizarre occasion, I think it's fair to say. So their last EFL Trophy match was actually a calamitous 5-1 defeat at the hands of Peterborough in this year's competition. They've also lost their last three league games and only won one of their last seven. Their manager, Kenny Jackett's under massive pressure. And going into this final as the first side ever to have the opportunity to retain this competition, has it come at the worst possible time?
Yeah, to be honest, it's one of it's a weird one. It's literally the weirdest final you can possibly do because it should have been last year, and obviously this time last year we all stopped. Players have gone since then. Obviously, this is going to be a really hard one to pick because it literally only picking some form from this season, rather than last season. And I think our predictions probably would have been slightly different last season compared to now. But with Portsmouth, they're out of form at the complete wrong time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's quite funny you mentioned actually the amount of players that have changed since then. Because my second question to you on Portsmouth was that last year they reached the final. I don't know if anyone remembers at this point, with the most dramatic of comebacks against Exeter City. They were 2-1 down and scored 2 goals in stoppage time. The first of those was by Cam McGeehan, who since then has gone back to Barnsley and then over to Belgium, which shows you how much has changed in that time. And in striker John Marquis, who wrapped up the victory in the 96th minute. The latter still at the club. He's in good scoring form until the last couple of games. Do you see him? I know it's the obvious question. Is he Portsmouth key man for the final?
Yeah, it has to be. Obviously, him and Ronan Curtis, another guy, he's on 10 goals this season. But it's weird because you can say they're the key men, but obviously recently are the key men because they've been absolutely horrific. Like I said, they've lost 4-1 to Northampton, who are bottom of the table at that time. It's not a good situation for Portsmouth, but yeah, I do agree they are the two key men, but it's how they're going to deal as a confidence in the team. Because if you lose these sort of games, and I was speaking to a Portsmouth fan the other week, and he wanted Kenny Jackett out, which is quite surprising to be honest. But yeah, it's a hard one this year for Portsmouth.
Yeah, and I guess I would say in the few weeks since, he's probably been proven right on the Kenny Jackett front after at the time it looking perhaps a bit premature. But let's move on to Salford quickly. Obviously, we'll talk about their squad as well. They put their place in the 2020 final with a narrow penalty success over Newport County. But again, as you mentioned with Pompey, it's been all changed since then. A new manager early this season, another squad overhaul in the summer. Could you argue, in sort of contrast to Portsmouth, that they're probably better prepared for this final than they might have been last year?
It's a weird one. I don't think these two teams can actually be prepared for a final. I'm sorry for being negative for Portsmouth and Salford, and it's just it's going to be the same for the FA Vars and the FA Trophy Finals that's coming up in May. You've got to feel sorry for them, especially with Salford, because it was Graham Alexander's team that got to the final, and now Richie Williams is in charge. So it's a bittersweet moment for some of the Salford players because obviously they've earned their way, obviously, to get to the final under Graham Alexander, and now obviously he's gone. And it generally feels weird because obviously when you wait to the cup final, where you're like, yeah, this team is good enough to play in the cup final, but you don't know. It's literally a one-off game between Portsmouth and Salford, and it's who's just going to be good on the day.
What we will say on the Salford front, the only other question I was going to ask you on them is that there are some players, as you mentioned, who haven't played in this route up to the final, who are now going to get the chance to win a trophy. So one of those men being Ian Henderson, who I guess we're picking out as the key Salford man. He's joined them in the summer. He was pointed out in our League Two predictions. And at 36, he's still banging in the goals. He's got to be the key man for them if they are going to get over the line this weekend.
Yeah, he's obviously Ian Henderson's got very good experience at this level. The thing is, Henderson and James Wilson, obviously he's been at Manchester United when he was a youngster. But to be honest, obviously you've got Darren Gibson. If he stays fit, if he's fit enough to play, key experienced number guy there. There's Sean Bernard, who's famous on this channel for myself in the FM save. There's another got a young lad there, Brandon Thomas Asante. I watched him in this documentary. He's a good lad. Obviously, come from Milton Keynes. He's probably my player to watch, to be honest.
And that's it. And as you've kind of mentioned with those names, it's the blend of experience and young talent, which is going to be key for Salford City. But before we move on to the 2021 final, Craig, you've said this is going to be the weirdest and hardest final to predict because neither of them have been preparing for a final in essence. So what do you see the score being? Who do you see coming out on top? Are you going with form or are you going with quality?
It's the thing. Portsmouth can turn up on the day and produce some quality moments. Do you know what? I'm going to go for the underdog. And obviously, we've been fans of teams that obviously won this trophy as an underdog. All right, it might have been 11 years ago, but still, we're still fans of a team that obviously won it back in 2009, and we were underdogs that day. I think Salford could actually nick this, to be honest. I'm actually going to sneak this to win. I'm going to go 1-0 Salford.
Do you know what? You probably thought that you were going to get pelters from me for saying that, but I actually agree. I think Salford have got the better chance of winning this. I mean, I will say Salford haven't been in brilliant form themselves, but they haven't been losing many games. So I can see this being one that gets dragged out. I can see them being level after 90 minutes, but I think Salford will prevail. And I'm going to go for a penalties victory because that's how they got to the final. So a year and a bit later, that's how they're going to win it. But I didn't expect us to be in agreement there, to be honest. But let's move on to the 2021 final, Craig. Sunderland v Tranmere Rovers. And we'll start with Sunderland. Let's be honest, in complete contrast to Portsmouth on the Saturday, a side in great form under a new manager with a high-quality squad. For Lee Johnson in particular, this is one hell of a chance to become even more popular with Sunderland fans very quickly, isn't it?
Obviously, we spoke about Lee Johnson in the manager special, which you go and check in the eye above. But yeah, obviously he's started very well, Lee Johnson, and obviously he's using his championship experience. He's getting the best out of a lot of players. Charlie White has just been on incredible form right now, so he's just going for fun, and they're winning games. Off the field, also they're sorting their stuff out now. They've got a new takeover. The signs are looking good for Sunderland at the moment. It's whether they can obviously get over that Wembley hoodoo, which they seem to just capitulate there. It does stand for a good end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it could be the springboard towards better things later in the season that they're looking towards. But I've got to mention the key men again, and you've pretty much highlighted one of the two for me there. So they reached the final after the tense penalties victory against Lincoln City. Since then, 5 wins out of 6, an unbeaten run all through. Charlie White in the form of his life, as you mentioned. And as you mentioned, probably more importantly, he's getting some of those high-profile players back to the party. The likes of Aidan McGeady is playing the best you've probably seen in 2 or 3 years. So as a whole, this final couldn't have come at a better time for Sunderland or the majority of their players who are in great form.
Yeah, to be honest, I think they've got a bit of experience, to be honest. Obviously, they were in the final last season against Portsmouth. So, obviously, they've got good enough players in there to actually, right, we've been here before. We've been in this situation. We know what went wrong. Let's break that hoodoo. Let's go over the line. I said Grant Ledbetter's obviously on form at the moment as well. Lyndon Gooch, Max Power, Luke O'Nine. There's something growing in this summer side. They look a bit more ruthless. I don't think there's actually any pressure this time compared to last season, because there was a lot of pressure of them. Oh, sorry, compared to 2 seasons ago, should I say? Because obviously they got relegated League One, and there was pressure just to go up, win the league in League One, and obviously get to the final in this one. So, and there was a lot of pressure then. I don't think there's much pressure now. So I think that's probably a good thing for them.
Absolutely. And, it's not a one-sided game. I know a lot of the build-up in the main media has been Sunderland, but let's talk about Tranmere Rovers, a club that we've covered a fair bit on this podcast due to probably luck at the games we've turned up to being brilliant. So it's a similar story for them, really, isn't it? It was a very poor start to the season. The gamble with promoting the assistant didn't really work out. But again, a managerial change to Keith Hill, a man that's been there and done it at this level. It's worked wonders. We predicted in the manager special that they would fly up the league. And they are. They're battling for promotion. They look healthier at the back. They're learning to win both pretty games and ugly games. And this Tranmere side is probably starting to show the League One quality that's littered throughout the squad.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with Tranmere since Michael Jackson's left the club, and obviously it's not Michael Jackson's fault. Obviously, as you just said, when you hire your former assistant manager, it doesn't tend to go well. You look at Bournemouth, for example, it didn't go well with Jason Tyndall. So, yeah, thoroughly impressed with Tranmere. Obviously, they're climbing up the league. They're near enough in the the playoffs now. So it's just a shame that James Vaughan is injured, but we've got Danny Lloyd behind him from Salford. Great signing. So hopefully they can. I think obviously they've got a good record at Wembley. Their last 2 games they won playoffs. So I'm quite confident in Tranmere. I really am. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a very good game.
Yeah, I agree. Because obviously, two sides in great form. But you have mentioned probably the big negative we've got to talk about, which is as much as confidence comes from their running this competition. I mean, the last two games to beat Oxford and Peterborough to get here, two of the better sides in League One. But although it's a game between two confident sides, James Vaughan is out on his own as top goal scorer of the club this season, and it looks like he's going to miss the final. Is that going to be a potentially too big a loss, or are they going to be able to find a way without him?
To be honest, regardless, James Vaughan is a loss for any side, especially vastly experienced player, obviously in League Two. So yeah, he's a quality player, James Vaughan, and it is a shame that he's not there. It's not there just for Tranmere, so it's a shame that he's not there for a final.
Agreed.
He'd be gutted. Tranmere obviously won games without him at the moment, so yeah, why not? It's literally why not? Someone can step up to the plate, take James Vaughan's place, and be a hero.
And do you feel, based on that, as we come to your prediction for the game, I mean, the sort of thought I've had on this, I genuinely don't know who to predict, but my thought was if it's a low-scoring game, that's the only chance Tranmere have got of winning it without James Vaughan. And if it's a high-scoring game, it's going to be Sunderland. So which side of the fence are you sitting on, and do you agree?
I'll tell you what, it really is a hard one. This is going to be a good final. I really am looking forward to this final. If Sunderland score early, it could be a long afternoon for Tranmere. It's Tranmere that got to hold out. If they can hit them on the counter attack, something like that, I'm gonna have to go for. And I'm sorry, Tranmere fans, and we love you. We love the Super White Army. We do want to go back to the Tranmere game as soon as possible, but I'm gonna have to go with Sunderland on this one.
And what score are you going for, Craig?
I'm gonna go 2-1. Actually, I think it'll be a late Sunderland winner.
Fair enough. And I'm going to go the other way. And the only reason I'm going the other way is because you never rule off Tranmere at Wembley. And that's something we've learned. And I mean, they were 3-0 down at the Watford FA Cup game, which is the last cup game I saw Tranmere at, and it was 3-0 by the end. So they never know when they're beaten. And as a result, I'm going for the opposite score. I think Tranmere will nick it 2-1. And partly because I think Sunderland is probably not their top priority this season. And I know the same can be said for Tranmere, but it's a massive opportunity for them. So I'm going to go for Tranmere to nick it 2-1. But I agree with you. I think of the two games this weekend, that's certainly the one to watch. So there are our thoughts on this weekend's EFL Trophy Finals. And let us know what you think the two scores will be down in the comments below. Hopefully you're looking forward to it. Hopefully your team will put in a good performance. And that's what we're hoping for, I guess, as neutrals here. Is two brilliant games that showcase the EFL in a positive light. If you did enjoy this episode, please put a thumbs up on it. Subscribe down below for regular content from the podcast. You can catch up with our weekend championship predictions in the eye above too, as well as interviews with current and former pros. A massive thank you to Craig for joining me as always. You can follow us over on Twitter at HonestFootball3, and we'll see you next time.